Hey everybody, this here's Big Will, and I have got a shave and a haircut. Yeah. So, what we're doing today is we're going to talk about, I've been watching multiple channels, seen multiple people. They all give their opinion on should you buy this certain book, should you sell this certain book, and I hear a lot of great advice, but I also hear some bad advice. And I just wanted to do a show where we really dig into a few books. We picked five, and we're going to really dig into this and figure out what would actually be some good advice on this book, or at least how to get the good advice. And as soon as I started thinking about that, and you can see the thumbnail, it's bad advice, buy high, sell low, which you never want to do. I only thought of one person immediately, and that was Who Dat Comics and Movies. So I got him to come on the stream. What's going on?
What's up, everybody? Hello. Yes. And also, I like to ring in a point. This is nothing against anybody who does these videos. Yeah. And not saying we're going against you guys or, supporting anything. It's just stuff we have been observing, and kind of the thoughts, I would say, kind of like ringing on what he just said as well. So DS and John, comics what's going on?
Yep. So I guess we should probably start with the caveat of we're not experts. We are not giving you financial advice. We are just making suggestions to what you might want to do or might want to do to figure out what to do. We are not telling you what to buy. We don't know you. We don't know your financial situation. We don't know, what's going on in your life. So there's going to be a lot of, this is what I think, but this and maybe that whenever we say something. Both of us are probably going to have those little caveats every now and then and jump in there with them. So
I definitely agree on that. And we don't know if you got a stimulus check or not.
We don't know if you got the stimulus.
That plays a factor. That's why I want to make it rain.
Yeah. So there's one book in particular we're going to start with, and man, Who Dat, you're a Turtles fan. It's a Turtles book, but even you had to have been shocked at the spike that this book has had recently. Like I'm talking probably just the year of 2021, really. And the book we're talking about is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures #1 by Archie. So tell me about this book, because I'm not a Turtles fan. What's special about it?
One thing I want to mention, because I don't forget about this book. One thing key about this book, it has 4 different types or issues or covers, how you want to call it. So that's one thing that people need to be aware of. There are 2 different newsstand versions. There's a U.S. and a Canadian newsstand. There's 2 direct version, which is the regular U.S. direct and a Canadian direct. So that is a big factor too when we're touching on this book. But I was definitely kind of surprised because this book for the longest has been a $10, maybe $1 book. It started creeping up on notice to $20 to $40 in that range, but it hadn't moved between 20 and 40 in a long, for years. I've always known it to be one of the top, I would say, 5 key turtle books. And if you think of Ninja Turtles, it's been around for 35, like almost 40 years now, I think. To have a book of that that's been around that long and to be a top 5 of important keys, it should have been priced a little bit higher a long time ago. And I think it's like making up. It's almost like making up for the time, sort of like maybe the 20 years it was in 10 to $1 bins, $10 or less bins. That's what it kind of feels like, because this book should have never been $1 book ever. The only one it came out, you know what I mean?
Right. So what have you been hearing about this book? I've heard some people say, is that a 9.8?
9.8 that wasn't pressed and clean.
Wow.
It does have off-white to white pages, but this is 1988. But but this is the regular U.S. version of a newsstand. And the only way you can tell the difference is the price. I think the Canadian would be $125, if I'm not mistaken, or $150. One of those, I can't remember, but if it was U.S., it just has $1.
All right. Well, let me bring up the GPA. Now, the picture that I had up before was from Go Collect, because that's one of the downsides of GPA. They don't have pictures or anything. They don't show you covers, which would be very useful. But there's also another reason why I'm going to be showing you prices on this from GPA. It's because GPA has an excellent graph system that they use to show you how the book has sold over I think they usually start when the book first, when grading first occurred to the current day, as close to current day as they can get.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is look here at the 9.8.
And also to let people know the significance of the book is, I forgot to say that, is the first appearance of Bebop and Rocksteady and Crane. And Bebop and Rocksteady in human form, but it's their first appearance in comics.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, you had mentioned there's 4 types of books, and I can see that here. We have a standard direct 9.8, last sale $1,300. The Canadian price variant $1,610, and then the newsstand is $2,250, and the Canadian newsstand is $2,300. Those are all last sales. So yeah, that is interesting. But we're going to look at the standard direct edition and expand this and look at the graph here. And good Lord, that's a pretty interesting graph, is it not?
Yes.
It's basically flat all through here, barely any sales. And then about 2014, this book started selling real good. And it really got to selling around the end of 2020. Let's see, what date is this? This is March of 2020, and really just skyrocketed in its price until recently. And the last sale was $1,300. The highest sale of the 26 that have sold this year, 2021, was $1,700. Now, when you look at a graph like this, that usually is an indication to sell now. But both you and I don't necessarily think this is a good sell now spot for this book. And that's, of course, with the caveat, if you need to buy rent and you bought this book for $20 and it's now selling for $1,300, sell the dang book. Pay your rent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
buy another raw copy for $100.
But if you can hold on to it and afford to, both of us would say this isn't a sell, this is a hold. But just looking at the graph, it says the opposite. Why? I'm gonna let you explain why we say hold on to it.
Well, this is why I say hold on to it. And it's a few things. I always look at this book, and it's a few things that you have to look at for a high grade 9.8 we're talking about. First off, this was a kid's book, Archie, kid's book. Hard to get in 9.8s, even 9.6s in my opinion, because we all were kids. We know what we did to anything when we were kids. That's one main reason. Another reason I believe it's a hold is when you scroll through the graph, I noticed it from 2009 all the way to it's like a monthly sold one, two, one.
Yeah,
two.
We're getting two, three. One,
yeah,
seven.
And if I had a spike of 7, and so they haven't had many sales of this book in 9.8 until you get to like 2020, I think.
All right. December 31st of 2020 is the first time it hit double digits on copies sold.
Yeah. So you're looking at, was that 11 years? 11 years it took to hit double digits. I haven't looked at the census for this book, but that kind of tells me it's probably not that high. That's another reason why I'm like, I don't know if I would sell it immediately. And then the price has gone up for this book, particular with no news. It's really gone up for nostalgia and really of people getting of age, of getting their own money to spend. And just imagine, which I've been hearing rumors about maybe a TV show on Netflix or something like that. So just imagine once you get some news that it's coming to some platform, or you didn't even wait till a trailer for that news. You know what I mean? So it's just like they have a lot more potential because as they've seen from the comics, and it actually have from Kevin Eastman signing that he had tons of books to sign, that there's a lot of appetite out there for Turtles books. So it's a lot of different things that it's like I would not sell unless I had multiples.
Yeah.
Or like you said, if you need to pay rent or eat or that. Because you can buy it again for like $100 in a high grade, not guaranteed it's a 9.8, but you can still get that book again.
Yeah, and I would agree with everything you said, and my thinking is, if this is a peak, if this is a peak, because of the age of nostalgia, and what that is there is this line when you're born, and it really doesn't move until you start to be able to ask for things, and then it increases. And then once you start to drive and you get girls and start thinking about college, it goes down again. And about the time you're 35, 45 years old, somewhere in there, it shoots up just as big or bigger than before. And that is the things you played with as a kid, the things you watched, the things you read, your toys, your comics. You're remembering those, and you have the funds to buy them again, and you can buy better versions of them. You can buy them on card. You can buy them in higher grade if it's like a comic book, for example. And we are currently in that age of nostalgia for kids that grew up with the Turtles. So even if this is the peak, I don't see it crashing down more than 30% if it crashes down.
And I don't even, and then so I re-looked at the GPA because I was looking at that again. Even if it dropped, I don't see two of the four that are different dropping. I don't see those dropping, and that's the two newsstand copies, the newsstand American and Canadian version. I don't see those dropping because there's not many out there in a high grade, and a lot of people are starting to see that people are doing the. I hate to bring it in, the card collecting conversation to it, which is population. And if you only have 4 sales of newsstand in the last 90 days, but you have 25 of the direct in 90 days, I could see that newsstand holding stronger than the direct. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm looking here now. The CGC census on Go Collect is behind. It's not 100% accurate unless there hadn't been any sent in, but
I sent one in.
You never know.
I sent one in, but it might not be on there because I haven't gotten it back. And it's
right. But I was just going to say that all of these numbers, the grand total of every grade for this book right now at CGC, and again, this could be a little off, is not even 800 books. It's 747. And of those, only 243 are in a 9.8. Compare that with, Wolverine 1 from 1988 or 82, and you have near 1,000 or more in 9.8.
Then you got the Venom. You could Venom with ASM 300. It's like in 1,000 or something like that. And,
yeah.
So you got a lot of different books that hit 9.8 are way above it.
So there's probably going to be a lot more. But anyway, the basic gist of what we're saying is, if you need to pay rent, it really doesn't matter if you're going to make a ton of money or if you're going to lose a few hundred. Sell the book. You need the money.
Yeah, and that's now, and we'll say that with every book.
Yeah, we'll say that with every book. But if you can afford to wait, now if you paid $1,000 for this book, if you want to sell now, you're going to make a profit. Go ahead if you want to. We're not telling you what to do. What we're saying is, even if you bought it at $1,000, if you bought it at $500, if you bought it at $20 and got it graded and it's a 9.8 and you're dancing, hold on to it. Because even if 1,000 of these books turn out to be 9.8s and get graded, that doesn't necessarily mean the price is going to drop. And with how many people love turtles and are in that age of nostalgia now, I think we're in. I don't think this is the peak, and even if it is, I don't think when it corrects, it's going to drop that low. So I would hold on to this book if I were you.
Yeah, and the odds of it getting, because I think it was like you said 200, 9.8s. And then when the funny thing is, if you break that down even more and more for certain ones, it's probably even crazier. But I don't see that even getting close to 1,000. It's just that people. I remember that as a kid. You flipped through that thousands of times. And if you kept it, it's torn apart. So
yeah,
I don't even see it reaching 500 and 9.8s, honestly. And with the smaller number in 9.8s, and that's the ones people want, or there's these new collectors, these new investors, I don't see that dropping as much just because there's not going to be many of them out there. And I can tell you this, we have a group on Facebook before we get into the next one. It's like a Turtles group, the 3,000 Club. That means that, they can have roughly, they can have a max of 3,000 people in this club. I don't see this book getting to even the 3,000 graded club.
Right. And we also want to say that we're looking at the most common grade, or the sought-after grade for these books. There are obviously other grades. I haven't even bothered looking at the prices for them or anything. We're talking if you have the 9.8. If you have other grades of the book, 9.6, I mean, that could change the conversation. 7.5, it's a totally different story. So don't take the information we're giving you on the grade we're looking at for other grades as well.
Yeah, definitely don't do that, because there's a difference, the big difference in a 9.8 of this book and a 9.4.
Right.
Yeah, I'll say that in that grade difference. Like so. Yeah.
Our next book is from the 90s, and it red flags for me. This has nothing but red flags. I get the buzzer going off like, hold up, hold on. This is one where you definitely need to stop, look, and analyze before you go buying this thing. And this is another one we're going to be looking at a 9.8. But before that, what are your thoughts on Dark Hawk #1, Who Dat?
That's a book that was in lower than dollar bins. 50 cent quarter. People was giving them probably as free books. Like, hey, let's take this book with the other books you purchased. That's my feeling on it. It's I can't say anything positive, but it's just like one of those you press the brakes on it, even if he's in a movie or a TV show. Please press the brakes, because there's thousands of videos on YouTube, or people have thousands of stories of finding this book in $1 or less in good condition, mind you.
Yeah, and what we're going to do here is I'm staying in Go Collect before I switch to GPA. And just to show you, right here, Go Collect has the FMV and a 9.8 at $220. And I can't look at the last sales because I'm not signed in on this laptop. I would be on my normal computer. But that's the FMV. And we're going to see how that's a bit behind. But look here at the difference. There are 723 9.8s of this one. Grand total graded right now almost 2,000, 1,951.
So you literally have the same, almost literally the same amount of 9.8s that you have at the Turtle Adventures one graded total.
Yeah.
So that's the little point I want to throw at people. Like, you got to look at that type of stuff too.
That's this is definitely a book from 1991.
Yeah,
And now we're going
red
to
flag.
look at the GPA of it. And like most 90s books, there is a regular version and a newsstand version. GPA, I don't know if they just have it sold one or if they're not breaking out the newsstand. So this
That's
probably has
one thing, like you said, about it's one thing about the GPA they need to update more.
Yeah.
They do it on some of the books for the newsstand, but some of them they don't do it, and they really ought to. Especially, I would say if you're going to do it for a 1988 book, you should need to do it for 1991.
Yeah. Now, this I had showed you. The Go Collect had the FMV at 220, but that's way off. Look at here. The 12-month average is 221. The 90-day average is 279, and the last sale of this book at a 9.8 was $329. Now, this graph isn't as abrupt and up as the one for TMNT Adventures, but it gets a little crazy here starting about the same time, 2014. Multiple sales start happening, and the price starts going up and down, but generally up. Now, a lot of people see that and how it's a general up for the most part, and they're like, okay, so should we buy this? And again, this is where we're kind of saying, well, hold up. That doesn't give you all the information. Pump the brakes. You know, if you can sell this within 12 months or, you know what, within 6 months, and you can pay, you know, $50 to $100 under the going rate, if you want to do it, do it. I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, but I would not pay top dollar for this book now, even though it's been going up for the most part. But for example, right here in let's see, the 7th month is July, right? July of 2018, its average price was $270. 6 copies sold. It only reached the same level in, you know, November of last year. Average price $282. That's more than a 2-year drop where the price dropped, and now it's back up again. So what are your thoughts on this, Who Dat?
That graph tells a story too. And a lot of people watch this, or you know, you can do YouTube or IG, however you get to watch this. That graph tells a story because if people remember at certain times, and I can't call out any names because I can't remember the people who did it, but at certain times people have pumped up this book and caused those spikes. The most recent one is towards the end, as you see, and a good buddy of ours actually told somebody in a claim sale, which I'm not going to say his name, but he told somebody in the claim sale, man, that's the most expensive dollar book I've ever seen. He got kicked out of the claim sale. Yeah. And I'll tell you who that was on the off air, but yeah, he said that in a claim sale, which wasn't offensive in my opinion. It was just telling the truth, because at that moment when it was selling for that high, it got pumped up on, I think, on a few bigger YouTube channels for no reason. It made top 10s or top 20s or whatever these lists are. And so it had a lot of eyes on it.
And here's another reason: is this is a book. Hey, what's going on, man? This is a book from 1991. Who Dat? Top 3 best-selling comic books of all time. I believe, were they not all in 1991? X-Men #1, Spider-Man 1, and X-Force #1. Every one of those was, I think, between 3 and 8 million copies.
Yeah.
So even if you cut that in a third, there was at least 1 million copies of this book.
Mm-hmm.
There was 3,000 of TMNT 1.
Yeah.
There was probably less than 50,000 of Turtles Adventures 1.
It's probably way less than 50,000.
Probably way less than 50,000. So you got to think about that too. Now, some of that is reflected in the fact that it's going for a little over 300 at the moment, but it's got as many or almost as many books as Spawn probably as far as copies printed. So Spawn's a much better character and has much more things going, and even he has just recently hit that 150 mark and a little above for a 9.8.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if you can flip it within 6 months, I mean, if you can buy it real low and sell it high, if you want to take the risk, by all means. But I just think with everything around this book, the risk reward is not good enough for me to get into it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. The only way I would risk it is you're buying it raw and you're getting it for a low price and you're slipping in a pre-screen. Would I do that with that book? Yeah, because you got to find 25 books for a pre-screen if you're going to CGC. So yeah, I would try to slip it in. Now, would I sell it? I don't know. Especially it just depends on the price. And then, like you said, the newsstands, and which has not been calculated on that GPA. I would love to know a newsstand because that was in that time, in the 90s, so. But I definitely agree on that. I wouldn't. That's something I wouldn't like saying. Let me go buy a 9.8 of that. I would actually almost try to buy a 9.8 of Turtles book, and that's not me being a Turtles collector, but just looking at the numbers and then looking at the dog.
I can tell you Who Dat. Go Collect does break out the newsstand.
Okay.
And oddly enough, they only have recorded 4 sales. The last one being a 9.6 in November of 2020. And like I said, I'm not logged in, so I can't tell you that sell. But that to me means that it's more of a sure bet for sure, just because of the ratio of newsstand to direct than the direct edition is.
Yeah. So it's a definitely pause. Take a second of the direct.
Yeah.
If you can find a high grade newsstand, I mean, I would say go for it, but I wouldn't say sell it though. I honestly wouldn't sell the newsstand of it.
Right.
If I got it at a 9.8, just because that's the one that would be hard to price in my opinion, unless you I guess you're kind of just shooting in the dark with that one, the newsstand.
Yeah. So our next book that we're going to go for is a book that, boy, this book, it's a love-hate, man. It's another one of those really expensive dollar books, and you probably already know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
And this book is gone even more insane than Darkhawk, and I think it has even less of a chance to stay at the price it's at. And what book are you talking about, Will? Well, here, let me show you. The book I'm talking about is West Coast Avengers number 45, the White Vision. So, there's going to be a lot to unpack on this one. What are your thoughts with this one, dude?
Quick thoughts is I actually did find that book in back issues for like $2 or $3. It wasn't much. It might have been $1. I think it wasn't $1 bin, and we don't have a lot of dollar bin in where I live. So I actually found that book, and I actually was pushing to sell this book way, before it got to the price it was, because Marvel tells you what's coming. I knew White Vision was coming. They told you White Vision was coming, basically, especially when he died. Yeah. So I'm kind of a good seller and bad seller at these moments, because I'm a good seller because I'm trying to sell you the book for like $10 to $20, because I want you to get it before you see it on TV, and now it's $100, $200 raw book, and thousands of dollars in 98. And that's why I'm a good seller, but I'm a bad seller because I could have just sold that book, and in the condition I had, I could have made at least $75, maybe $100. Because it might have been a 9, but it wasn't a 9.8. But so it's kind of I feel bad in a way, but because everybody knows that was just like the Dark Hawk. You know that's a dollar book. You know that's a dollar book all day.
Yeah, but they're Sixth Face here says that he hadn't been able to find one for a while. Yeah, that's because in Infinity War, the people who paid attention saw him go colorless, and they tried to buy it then. But au contraire, mon frère. Let me show you the
I would say I
GPA.
did find it though.
Yeah, let me show you the GPA on this one. It tells a story. Let me tell you. The GPA on this thing. Look at it on its face. The 2019 average, only 4 of them were sold in a 9.8 because no one really cared. And the highest price or the average price was $82. 2020, 170. Okay, I can see that. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, the 12-month average on this thing shot up to 677. And then WandaVision happened, the 90-day over 1,000. And the last sale on this thing is $50 short of $2,000. Good Lord. Look at that graph.
That's a graph I would stay away from.
This graph, look at this. The last sale right here, this is 2008, a 9.8 sold for $64. It cost you a little over $30 for shipping and everything to get one graded. So I can tell you right now, a raw would probably be in the dollar bin back in 2008. And right here, in early 2008, $40 for a 9.8. And then from 2008, there wasn't a single sale in 9.8 until 2018. So a decade of silence on this book. Absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden, it was probably because of Infinity War, the average price this one sold was $124. People are starting to notice the book a little bit. And then all of a sudden, in 2020, it goes from 165 in June to, January of 2021, 1152, and our last sale was $1,950. This is insane.
That's what that hump, the first that not the first hump, but that kind of hump before it goes straight and then goes straight up. That hump, right there. What's the date on that one?
That is February 29th of last year. The average price, that one sold for $250, 9.8.
So you're talking about post Infinity War and post Infinity War and Endgame. So and then like you showed that it had a lot of copies, like $600. People knew when that you were spending $600 on a book that it was going to probably double at least, because you wouldn't have spent $600 on a book that nobody was spending not even $100 on.
Right. And another thing I'd like to point out is that at least the Turtles Adventures didn't have a decade-long silence.
Yeah.
There were a few books sold, but look at this. Not a single book from the literal last day of 2008 until the literal last day of October 2018.
You've had one, like it says, monthly. It's only one. Only one in 10 years.
Here is what we're going to say for this book, and I'll take the GPA down. If you can find this book for an extreme discount versus what it's going for now, and you want to risk getting it and trying to flip it for a little bit, maybe. But I would not. I would sell this now. This is a time to sell this book. Get as much as you can for it. I would not buy this book, even if I could find it raw. I don't know if I would buy it raw unless I could buy it for under $100.
Yeah, if I can get it for under a certain price raw, then I would get it. But I would sell it actually raw. I would not even get it graded unless I knew that it was a 9.8. But I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even sell it raw if I could get it. Yeah.
DS is joking here, but he might have some You might be onto something there. There were no sales because not a single copy was ever sent in to get slabbed until recently. Well, let's look at the data on that. I'm not going to bother sharing the screen because that takes effort. But okay, as of right now, again, this is probably a little off because I'm going off the Go Collect, not the actual CGC website. 175. That's how many are graded total. And there are 52 9.8s. I think what that is there are so many of these books that aren't being sent in because there was 100,000 of them probably printed, that it's an artificial restriction if you want the book because there's only 52 9.8s. I think that might be where some of this price is coming from. But again, I do what you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you want to ask my opinion, I would sell it if you have it, slab it if it's not slabbed, and don't buy this book. As soon as he comes back, they're not going to keep him in black and white. They're going to colorize him. Buy Avengers 57 if you got a spare $2,000.
Yeah, really, and you can get a nice copy, very nice copy for $2,000 of his first full appearance in Silver Age. That if you got $2,000, that's the one to get into because, like you said, his color, they're gonna give him his color back. They gave him his memories back.
Yeah.
So his color will come back because he can change all of it. People forget he can phase through it. He can do all that.
Yeah. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch from GPA back to the Go Collect for the picture. And this book, I like this book. This is a book I think is a great hold if you're going to do something with it. And Who Dat, I believe you said you actually have one of these, but you can't reach it at the moment.
Yes.
And this is just a great book. It's on this list because, again, we heard some advice that we disagree with, and we're going to explain why. Who Dat, what are your thoughts on New Teen Titans #2, the first appearance of Deathstroke and the first appearance of Hive? That they usually forget that part.
Great book. I remember that one as a kid. So it's a little bit of nostalgia for me on that instance, but I mean it's one. You can look at the Teen Titans Go movie, which was actually a hit. My daughter liked it and stuff like that, so it was actually a really good hit. Adults liked it and kids liked it. The main villain was Deathstroke. To me, he's more the Teen Titans. Big bad villain, which they're getting more to the Titans. They're doing a lot of TV show stuff, but he is a big fall for Batman as well. And I think people, and you like to say, I think it's more of a hold, unless you don't have a lot invested in a book, and you're just like, all right, let me take, I only got $200 into the book, let me sell it for $1,000. I would say great, do that. But if you don't have a lot invested, even like to me, $200 is not a lot invested in it. I would say hold it because a lot of people had a lot of high praises for the new movie.
The great example is Spider-Man. A lot of people love Spider-Man. Like Reggie Collects is a perfect example of a Spider-Man fan. But he did not grow up and remember reading Amazing Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
But because he liked Spider-Man as a kid, and Spider-Man was a part of his life through the cartoons, through the comics, artwork, and all that, he is able, now that he's an adult and in that age of nostalgia, to go back and get those books. And then he knows, hey, wait a minute, 1962, that's when Spider-Man first appeared. I love Spider-Man. I want to get his first appearance. So lo and behold, Reggie Collects now has an Amazing Fantasy 15 that, knowing him, he'll eventually upgrade.
Yeah.
But he's got it. And that was not a memory from childhood. It's just because of the significance of the book to the character. So there's a lot like this. That's what Who Dat mentioned, the Teen Titans TV series, the Teen Titans Go series, plus all the animated movies and everything. The kids of today, this might not be something for the people in the age of nostalgia now that read it in 1980. But the people who remember the cartoons of the late 90s and early 2000s, when they're old
Mhm.
enough, they're going to go back to the beginning and get this book right here.
Which is literally around the corner because if you like I said the Turtles. I was born in '84. So I think the Turtles book came out in '84, the
It
original
did.
one. This one came out in '88. I wasn't old enough yet to even get that, but
Actually,
it's on the
this one
list.
came out in 80.
But that one came out in '80. So
Yeah,
like a lot of
1980.
yeah. So a lot of people who are like kids or might be from the cartoons are probably my age or a little bit older maybe, or a little bit younger depending on when they watched it. So it's definitely, and then you can look at another book because you mentioned the Reggie connection, kind of like how he did his thing. But look at Deadpool. Look at how Deadpool kind of they're like similar but different
Yeah.
characters. Um, and if you look at Deadpool, what it's doing all of a sudden with you can't get it for under $2,500 to $3,000 for a 9.8. And this is we know they're doing something with Disney, but
Yeah.
there's no announcements. We just know he got a new contract. You know,
Yeah,
Ryan Reynolds
you
got a
can
new contract.
find a lot of books that are similar like that to
Yeah.
this one. Where it sort of skips a nostalgia era, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But let's look at the pricing data on this because this is a great book to buy at any time, really, and hold for the most part. It's for some reason had a spike recently, and I don't know why. It may have something to do with, oh, I don't know, the Justice League Snyder cut having that cut scene with Deathstroke at the end of the movie. So right now we're looking at a last sale of this in a 9.8, $1,300. The 90-day average was 833, 12-month average 670, 2020 580, 2019 617. So this track right here is a steady growth. There's a bit of a spike here
Mm-hmm.
on the last sale, but that's still much more steady than, 40 bucks back in here to almost 2 grand, like with the white vision.
Yeah.
And let's look at this graph because this graph, I like it. The reason why I like it is plenty of sales throughout the entire life of the graph. Really, 2010, 2012, it started selling more. It hit a peak as far as copies sold right here, 16 on the 31st of March in 2015. But if you look at this, it went down here, up, down, up. It's pretty steady. Then it goes down. It's remained steady. Then you see it go up a little bit. Has a couple of years, it actually remains steady. Goes up, goes down a little bit. For the most part, this book has a steady hold on its price. I mean, you look at
Mm-hmm.
right here. We have 2010. This is the lowest point, 179, 119, right here.
Mm-hmm.
But look at how that stayed. 216. That's the high point in 2012, 2 years later. Look at before, it was 212, same price in 2009. So it fluctuates like a stock would or like most books, but
Yeah.
it's fairly steady. I like this book.
I like that steady because that shows a great kind of a steady growth, or even if it's slow, but it shows a steady growth. So it's like if you bought it now, you
Hmm.
shouldn't be upset about it because that recent spike was just from that movie. So that should just tell you something. If they do something with that stroke, it's going to spike again,
Yeah.
and then it might be out of reach.
It also it also shows me that if you take just about any 10-year period, like 2015, the high was 787. That was a fluke. That has to be a fluke. 521, 395, and then it goes down. But you go all the way 10 years, 2015, look, 472, 540, 593, and that's 2016, excuse me. 473, 500, we got 482, 435. It's not that different. It's like $100 swing in 10 years. It happened to be down, but that's only $100 swing in a decade.
Mm-hmm.
That's fairly stable.
Yeah, it's a good stable book, a good book that you haven't seen a big dip and a drop.
Yeah.
You see little dips and then little increases, little dips, little
Right.
increases.
So let me remove the GPA and let's look at the data on this one for the census. And I'm going to repeat myself again. I'm looking at the census data from CGC on Go Collect, so it's probably a little behind. Grand total of 5,405 books graded total. This is the most of any book we've checked so far. There are 804 9.8s.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's one thing I do like about so far, if everybody's noticed, not one book has cracked 1,000 in 9.8. And that is something just to point out. One book hasn't cracked 1,000. This is the highest one, but it still didn't crack 1,000. Which other books that are way more expensive has well over 1,000.
Yeah. Now the next book is probably the most expensive book. I mean, comparing 9.8s to 9.8s on this list that we have here. And hey, what's going on? And
Marcos.
It's also been one of the most pushed books of 2020, especially with WandaVision, and now Winter Soldier is pushing things. People really want this to happen, and I think it has a great chance. It's a good spec because it has a great chance of happening. But we're going to look at a 4.5. That's the grade we're going to look at for this one. What book am I talking about, though? Well, sorry, I didn't mean to mash that button. It is, you probably caught the title that I just showed. Silver Surfer 3. Woo! Mephisto's coming, man.
He's coming somewhere.
He's coming. He's coming in the episode where Agatha's going to reveal it's okay. He didn't come. Then it's going to come in the episode where Wanda finally figures out. Okay, that didn't happen. It's going to come in a cutscene at the end of the series. That didn't happen. The Winter Soldier will magically appear and be Mephisto. It turned that didn't. Man, people push this one. They really want it to happen, and it's a great spec for happening. But I don't see it anytime soon because of the character. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like you said, this is out of all the books, this one has been probably the most pushed out of all of them. The closest one is probably Darkhawk, just because of people just saying get it. But
I think hope is the main thing propping up Darkhawk.
Yeah. They have a lot of hope, and a lot of people who grew up in that era is like, that'll be. But this one has been pushed so much, and it's going to continue to be pushed just because we have, Doctor Strange and Multiverse, which I don't know how I feel about that because it's going to keep getting pushed.
This is one book that's such a great idea. They're going to use it at some point, and the character's so good as a villain and so powerful. This book will be pushed until it happens, and then it'll probably be pushed a little more.
Yeah, and the only thing is, I can see it happening, but I can't see when, which is worse. Because we know a slate of stuff that's in works with Marvel. We know a slate of stuff that's in works. And I don't see it in the next 5 years.
I don't know about 5 years being specific, but I don't see it for a while. I think until the movies start being made and we get them every year again, I think that point they might lay the seeds.
Yeah, and the only reason I say 5 years is because a couple years ago, Kevin Feige put his 5-year plan out. They put Marvel's 5-year plan out. You know what's movies are coming. You know what characters appearing in certain movies. You know Fantastic Four's coming. You know all this stuff is coming. Mutants are not coming in that 5-year span. He said. He said they are coming, but not in his first 5 years.
Well, he also mentioned that FF is not coming either, but they're probably coming before the X-Men.
Yeah, he did it because he did put it on that title frame. But it's like, I'm trying to think of where would he fit.
Yeah, you know? I don't know, man. But let's look at
Doctor Strange. I don't know.
Yeah, let's look at the pricing data on this one because this is an interesting book. And like I said, we're going to look at the 4.5 price on this. And the reason we're going to look at the 4.5 is I doubt many people are going to get a 9.8. And that's why it last sale was $38,400. Let's scroll on down to the 4.5. All right, so the 2019 average, only 12 were sold and 194, then 239, then 384, then a little bit of a jump in 2020 to 573 average. Or actually, that's the 90-day average. So that's 2021. 6 have been sold this year in this grade. And the last sale was 670. That's interesting. And let's take a look here. Now, we can't look at the frequency of sales on this because not that many get sold because it is a Silver Age book. I mean, you can go up here and actually, you know what? Why don't we look at a 5.5 that has more data?
Yeah, it's 9. 5.5, so 6.
5.5 has more data. So let's bring the graph up. That is our graph. Again,
and I used to have it.
People started to think about it in 2018, and then somewhere around 2019 to 2020, they really started thinking about it, saying maybe, and then 2021 hit, WandaVision. Oh, it's gotta be Mephisto, and it shot up. So this graph, Who Dat, is very similar to Darkhawk and TMNT Adventures. What are your thoughts on this graph before we dig in?
It's similar to those. The difference I can kind of say is this one always kind of had that great cover and first appearance on the cover. So it always had that kind of going for it.
And it's artist recognition, John Buscema.
Yeah, so it had a lot going for it without it, and it, you know, when you see those little small humps, it had those little, you know, it was growing because of this book. People want it. If you like Silver Surfer, you like first appearance, you like great covers, great art. So it had a lot going for it without the spec or the pushing of it, because, you know, I even had that book at one point at the 4.0, but it's like, and I guarantee I sold it for like under $200. But it only thing I could say is this one had the difference between this one and the other ones. This one was definitely pushed by everybody. Everybody else.
Here's my question then. Would this, again, we're not telling you what to do. We're just making suggestions. We're not actually qualified. You know, we don't have degrees or anything in this, although I don't think anyone does. Would you buy or hold based on all the data we have here and looking at the graph? And by the way, we're not saying only use GPA. Use Go Collect. Use GPA. Use, you know, cover price and other things as well. You need it. It is only with counselors that a king can become wise. So you got to make sure you have a lot of data from different places, because like this one doesn't always break out stuff as it needs to, and you might be looking at the wrong cover and you don't even know it. Go Collect is about a month behind, so its data is not as fast as GPA, but you can see the cover, you know what you're doing, and it's a much smoother ride as far as navigating. So a combination is what you need. So buy or sell, Who Dat?
Well, I'm not buying.
Buy, sell,
Not
or
buying.
hold.
If I own the book, I'd probably sell. If I didn't own it, I'm not buying. Um, that's just how I feel. Because what's the price? Is $1,000 for a 5.5?
Well, the high is 1,025, but
Okay,
if I just scroll up here, the last sale,
like those are
the
some of
last
the
sale was
GPA.
1,025.
Okay, so you're looking between $900 to $1,000 in a 5.5, and it's probably going to be a little bit higher than that. With all, but I would definitely not. I'm not buying it. But if I bought in 2 years ago at the $200 mark, I'm probably selling it because if you know the history of villains, it doesn't bode well for Marvel characters.
But
Um,
one thing I like about this graph is that when they push these books, it lets us know what's going to happen when it happens. Like, for example, hopefully this book is one of the few that's going to come and crash down a little bit. It'll probably stop around maybe the halfway point, or maybe around $500. Probably won't ever go back to the $200 because now everyone thinks, oh, Mephisto could do something. But this is letting us know that a 5.5 can go over $1,000. If you bought this if you bought this in 2017 at $155, there's no way you were thinking this is going to be $1,000 book in this grade.
And if you bought it in that time frame, which you could have spent a little bit more and got a higher grade, you bought it because it's for the PC at that price. Because you're like, I'm being a little frugal. I'm just going to spend $100 and something, and you probably, if you'd have spent $300, you probably could have got a 7.5 or 8.0.
And I would suggest that my suggestion is like Who Dat. If you want to buy it, buy it. But I would suggest that you buy it raw. Learn how to grade before you buy a raw book. But buy it raw if you're going to buy it. Pay less than the last sale, and then get it graded, and hopefully you'll have a good grade, and then you can sell whenever it goes up again, and I'm assuming of a crash. If it doesn't crash down and it just keeps going up, that works too.
I do. I would definitely say, like you said, buy it raw and learn how to grade.
I would definitely, if I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy it raw. I would always suggest, no matter what book you're buying, pay less than the last sale, unless the last sale is a fluke and really cheap. That does happen on occasion. And if you got it, I'd sell it now if you can, especially if it's your second copy.
Yeah, and don't pay slab prices for the raw.
Never pay slab prices for the raw.
A lot of dealers and stuff have been pushing that as well.
The reason that you pay more for a slab is because if it has a 7.0 on it, Who Dat's going to say it's a 7.0, and I'm going to say it's a 7.0. If it's a raw book, Who Dat might say it's a 7.0, but I might think it's a 6.0 or a 6.5. And depending on the book, like this one currently, those are huge differences in those grades.
Yeah. And actually all of those books are huge differences when you talk about different grades. It's like, the price makes a big difference. But I'm not. It's a book I would love to have back in the collection because I do like Silver Surfer and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
Unless it's raw at a good price. But and then if I did, it would be a longer hold. It'd be a hold.
That is the fifth and final book. Let us know in the comments how we did, if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, and if you want us to maybe do this again at some point. We just did this because we both heard some information we didn't agree with, but if you like it and want us to try and do it again, let us know. If you disagree, like I said, let us know. Thank you, everyone, for watching this. Thank you for everyone who was in the chat watching this. We appreciate you. Who Dat, before we get out of here, do you have anything on your channel you want to plug?
I just got the auction Thursday on my channel at 6 Central. I believe I have to double check, but Geek Aficionado is supposed to drop in and try to sell some stuff. Tony Sanders is going to make another appearance, and both of those guys are selling for a purpose. So you got, I like when you have sellers on auctions that actually don't attend a lot of auctions, but when they do sell, they're selling for a purpose and they have ultimate goal. And I like to push those guys. So hopefully they can make multiple appearances. So I do have that Thursday at 6 Central, 7 Eastern. And like you said, man, if you like us doing this, I actually like doing this. And it's easy to find other books that, people have been talking about. And I would love to see more people in the chat, like even ask questions or whatever, but I really like this, and I hope other people liked it as well. I did share it as well, so people who who saw it from my shared post, please sub up Big Will. Please leave a thumbs up. Leave a comment as well.
Yeah, and
telling us what you like, what you didn't like, what you think we should add.
If I can, I've never done timestamps before, but if I can, I'll actually put timestamps in this so you can see the book and go to the one you want. But anyway, thanks everybody. Thank you, Who Dat. Thank you, chat. We'll see you guys later.